This asynchronous lecture is going to cover the Catholic Reformation from 1545 until 1563. So this, like the Protestant Reformation, lasted over a period of time. It just wasn't some singular event in history. And so the Council of Trent is often the considered the catalyst for the Catholic Reformation, also known as the Counter Reformation. This is the Catholic reaction to Protestantism. It's the Catholic reaction to the Protestant Reformation. And so through this, they are going to address some reforms within the Catholic Church. And so we're going to be addressing the historical thinking skill of continuity and change over time. What did the Catholic Church change and what did the Catholic Church keep the same? For the most part, they're going to keep a lot the same, especially when it comes to their dogma or their beliefs, but they are going to institute some changes in response to the popularity of Protestantism. Okay, so the Catholics responded particularly through Pope Paul III. He is the most important pope in challenging Protestantism, although remember, they can't get rid of Protestantism. Okay, it is established now, okay, but they can try and stop people from leaving the Catholic Church in order to become Protestant. So they want to stem the flood of people who are leaving to go to this different Christian religion. Now, this Reformation amongst the Catholics is not going to mean brand new Catholic doctrine or beliefs. Okay, rather than creating new ideas, he wants to improve church discipline through the ideas that already exist. So the 7 sacraments, the monastic tenets, the idea of good works plus salvation, or good works plus faith equals salvation. So he's not trying to change any of the rules or the dogma in the Catholic Church. He's trying to strengthen them, but also discipline the church in that it tries to decrease the number of abuses that the Catholic Church has become known for prior to the Reformation. So this Catholic response, the Catholic Reformation, was a response to the popularity of Protestantism as it continues to spread through Europe and shatter centuries of Western Christianity unity. Okay, now that we have a bunch of different types of Christianity that have emerged in Europe. And also it's responding to the critics within the church. So it's responding to external criticism and internal criticism, saying, hey, there's corruption. We need to correct that corruption if we want to prevent people from leaving and going over to the side of the Protestants. And so the Council of Trent is going to be established in order to do that. Now, it's not one singular meeting. It is multiple sessions over a period of time, and it's going to establish modern day Catholicism. So remember, dogma means beliefs or tenets. All of those mean the same thing. Okay, so they believe that you need scripture, specifically the Latin Vulgate, not the translations by the Protestants. You need church traditions, okay, like their doctrines, and the writings of the church fathers, i.e. the Pope. So they keep the Pope, they keep the Vulgate, and they say you need to do good works in addition to have faith in God in order to achieve salvation. Okay, so this is a continuity. They're also going to keep all 7 of the sacraments. This includes the 2 that the Protestants kept, the Eucharist or communion and baptism. But in addition to those 2, they're also going to have marriage or matrimony, confirmation, confession. So you can't just go to God directly, you have to go to the church. Last rites, holy orders. So becoming a monk, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's all 7 of them. Also, specifically, the idea of what type of communion they believed in. They believed in transubstantiation, which means that the bread and the wine becomes the literal body and blood of Christ, whereas the Protestants believed in consubstantiation, saying that it didn't become the literal body and blood, but rather Jesus was there in spirit. They're also going to keep monasticism, monks and nuns. They're going to keep the oaths of celibacy or chastity and oaths of poverty and obedience made by members of the clergy, so the Pope can't have baby mamas. And purgatory is going to continue to be a thing. So yet another continuity. Okay, what about changes? They do institute some changes, most notably in church reforms. They're going to keep indulgences, but they're going to try to reduce the abuses in the sale of indulgences. That's what curtailed means, to decrease. They're going to decrease simony, the sale of church offices. They're going to establish seminaries or schools to train members of the clergy so that they decrease the amount of clerical ignorance, so that the priests can read Latin in order to read the Bible, in order to lead their congregation. But the Catholic Church is also going to respond to the popularity of Protestantism, and they're not going to take kindly to it. They approve something called the Index, which is a list, the Index of Prohibited Books. So if you're a Catholic, these are books that you are not allowed to have or read. Any book that supports Protestantism or criticizes the Catholic Church, like Erasmus's In Praise of Folly, are going to be banned from Catholic countries. So Catholic countries like Spain, France, the city-states of Italy, okay, they're going to have this list of forbidden books that you are not allowed to have. If you have any of these books, you could be punished severely for heresy, which is where we get the Spanish Inquisition. This is a group of clergy members who go around enforcing Catholicism and trying to see if anyone is breaking these laws against these prohibited books. And they engage in torture and other methods in order to figure out whether or not someone is committing heresy. And then they use torture or death in order to punish that heresy. So heresy is going to be wiped out, mostly in Spain and Italy. They're going to be very, very strongly Catholic. In addition to the Index of Forbidden Books or Prohibited Books, you get the establishment of a new Catholic order, okay, the Jesuits. They are Catholic, okay? If you ever get a question saying, what did the Jesuits believe in? Were they Protestant? Were they Catholic? Were they Eastern Orthodox? They were definitely 100% Catholic, like the most Catholic you could possibly be. They were known as the Society of Jesus, or Jesuits. And this was a Catholic branch started by Ignatius Loyola, who had been a former military leader. And so he's going to organize this order, the Jesuits, in a military fashion. Here he is going to the Pope, asking him to bless this order so that he can go and stamp out heresy in the Catholic nations. And so they're going to be very violent. They're going to be a part of the Spanish Inquisition, using torture in order to extract confessions and to find more people who have these prohibited books or other heretical beliefs. And they have 3 goals in this order. Goal number 1, reform the church through education. Jesuit schools are going to be renowned for the high levels of education that they have. Okay, so these are super, super good schools throughout Europe. Okay, so they want to fix the church, which was originally Martin Luther's goal before he was excommunicated. So they don't want to break from the church, they want to reform it. They also want to spread the gospel to pagan peoples. Now, where are they going to be spreading the gospel to pagans? The New World. Remember, this is still a proselytizing religion, and they are still in the midst of old imperialism. They're still in the midst of the Columbian Exchange during this time period. And so many Jesuits are going to go over to the New World to force conversions of the Native Americans. They also want to fight Protestantism. That's where we get the militant side of the Jesuits. Okay, remember, Protestantism is heresy. It's just as bad as paganism, because it leads people to hell. And so they're going to take this goal to fight Protestantism quite literally. It's not metaphorical. We are literally throwing hands. And his book, where he gives this guidebook of how to be a good Jesuit, is called spiritual exercises. So if you see an excerpt for like a DBQ or an SAQ where it says spiritual exercises, a book by Ignatius Loyola, then you know he's about to lay out some super Catholic rules, okay, for enforcing Catholicism. And that could include violence and torture as a method of enforcing Catholicism. So the Spanish and Roman Inquisitions are going to be established by the Catholic Church for the purpose of enforcing these new reforms, including their laws against certain prohibited books that are critical of the Catholic Church. And so the Index of Prohibited Books is going to be strongly enforced in the Papal States, which we know that the center of the Catholic Church is in Rome. So this is talking about the Papal States in Italy. And also, Spain is going to be super Catholic under the Habsburgs. And so they are going to form their own Inquisition as well to root out heresy and to find any Jews, Muslims, or Protestants within their borders. Okay, so as a result of this, cause and effect, heresy was effectively ended in the Papal States. Now, that doesn't mean all of Italy. This just means the states of Italy that contained, all right, the power of the papacy. Because remember, Italy doesn't become its own country until 1870. It's very decentralized, just like the Holy Roman Empire, which becomes Germany. Okay, but some of the benefits of the formation of the Jesuits is that they are going to form the finest schools in all of Europe. So you're going to continue to see that church control of education. Okay, so they're going to prohibit certain books that are critical of the church, but they're still going to promote other aspects of education in Europe. Once again, coming out of that Dark Ages in some sense. Educationally coming out, in terms of still torturing people, kind of a continuity there. So in this particular device, you see a heretic or suspected heretic tied onto this wheel, and this wheel is going to be turned over a steaming fire. And so you're scalded quite thoroughly as your body is passed over that steam. And so this is how they extracted confessions, saying, how did you get this book? Who else is a Protestant? And sometimes they would get false confessions, because torture isn't really the best way to get true information, because eventually they'll tell you whatever they think that you want to hear. Okay, but they are going to very stringently enforce these regulations against Protestantism in these Catholic nations, which is only going to lead to further conflict with Protestant nations in Europe like England.